Hello, motorcycle-loving friends! Today we're going to talk about two-stroke engines and how they work. The two-stroke engine, or 2T engine, has for decades been the pulsating heart of countless motorcycles, especially those designed for competition, motocross, and enduro. Its ability to deliver explosive power relative to its weight and displacement made it the dominant choice in many categories, forging legends and leaving an indelible mark on motorcycle culture. Although environmental regulations and the pursuit of greater efficiency have favored the rise of four-stroke engines, the 2T engine in a motorcycle remains synonymous with lightness, mechanical simplicity, and a throttle response that can be brutally addictive. To understand the magic and distinctive character of a 2T bike, it's fundamental to break down how this type of engine functions. Unlike a four-stroke engine, which needs 2 complete crankshaft rotations and 4 piston strokes to complete a work cycle, the 2T engine completes its entire cycle in just 1 crankshaft revolution and only 2 piston strokes, 1 upward and 1 downward. This astonishing simplification is the key to its compact and powerful nature.
To understand how these engines work, we need to briefly explain their fundamental parts that differentiate them from other engines. The cylinder is the main structure where the piston slides. It's the engine's operation chamber. Within the cylinder are the ports, or windows, strategically located openings in the cylinder wall that the piston uncovers and covers with its movement. The 3 main ports are intake port, where the fresh mixture of air, fuel, and oil enters the crankcase. Transfer port, connect the crankcase to the upper part of the cylinder, allowing the fresh mixture to pass through. Exhaust port, where burnt gases exit the cylinder to the motorcycle's exhaust system. Inside the cylinder is the piston, which has a different design compared to 4-stroke pistons. It has 2 windows that allow it to cover or uncover the ports. Connected to the piston is the connecting rod, which is connected to the crankshaft. Crankshaft is the engine's main shaft that receives force from the connecting rod and converts it into rotational motion, which, through the transmission, drives the motorcycle's rear wheel. In 2T engines, the crankshaft operates within the crankcase and is crucial for the intake process. Unlike a 4-stroke engine, you might have noticed that the 2-stroke doesn't have intake or exhaust valves. The ports fulfill their function. As we know, this type of engine requires a special mixture of oil and gasoline to operate. This mixture, after entering the carburetor, goes to the crankcase, which is the lower part of the engine that encloses the crankshaft and plays a vital role in the 2T engine's intake cycle, as it's where the fresh mixture is pre-compressed. Something fundamental in 2-stroke motorcycles is the exhaust system, expansion chamber. This isn't just a pipe, but a crucial part of the 2T engine's performance. Its design, shape, and volume directly influences scavenging and power delivery, utilizing pressure waves to improve cycle efficiency. That's why if we remove the exhaust, it breaks, or we simply replace it with another one, the engine's performance will change.
The cycle of a motorcycle's 2T engine unfolds in 2 phases, or strokes, each corresponding to a piston movement, and combining multiple functions that occur separately in a 4T engine. First stroke. This stroke begins with the piston at its bottom dead center, BDC, meaning it's in the lowest position within the cylinder. At this instant, the transfer and exhaust ports are open. As the piston begins its upward movement from BDC, the first thing it does is cover and close the exhaust port, and almost immediately after, the transfer port. This seals off the combustion chamber, the upper part of the cylinder, and the crankcase area, below the piston. While the piston rises, it begins to compress the fresh mixture that was already in the combustion chamber. Fresh mixture intake into the crankcase, allowing this new mixture to be drawn from the carburetor into the crankcase. Ignition. Just before the piston reaches TDC, the spark plug fires. This spark ignites the air-fuel-oil mixture that has been compressed in the combustion chamber. The timing of this spark, ignition advance, is critical for performance. After ignition, the mixture in the combustion chamber explodes violently. The resulting gases expand rapidly and with immense pressure, pushing the piston downwards with tremendous force. This force is transmitted through the connecting rod to the crankshaft, generating the rotational motion that drives the transmission and ultimately the motorcycle's rear wheel. This is the power stroke, the one that generates useful power. As the piston descends, the first thing it uncovers is the exhaust port. The burnt gases, still under considerable pressure, are released and forced out of the cylinder through this port and into the exhaust system. Almost immediately after the exhaust port opens, the piston continues its descent and uncovers the transfer ports. The
The fresh air-fuel oil mixture that was pre-compressed in the crankcase during the piston's upward stroke now rushes upwards through the transfer passages. These passages are designed to direct the flow of the new mixture towards the top of the cylinder. Once the piston reaches BDC, the cycle is complete, and the piston begins its upward movement again to start the next cycle. This two-stroke process repeats thousands of times per minute, creating that characteristic brrrep or ring-ding-ding sound of a 2T motorcycle. One of the most notable differences in motorcycle 2T engines is their lubrication system. Unlike 4T engines, which have a separate oil sump and a pump that circulates oil to lubricate all parts, in most traditional motorcycle 2T engines, lubricating oil is mixed directly with the gasoline. When you prepare the mixture in your 2T bike's fuel tank, or if it has a separate oil injection system, it injects the oil into the carburetor or intake. That lubricating oil travels along with the gasoline and air. When this mixture enters the crankcase, the oil lubricates the crankshaft bearings, the connecting rod pins, and the cylinder bore where the piston slides. Once the mixture moves up into the combustion chamber, the oil burns along with the fuel, which produces the characteristic blue smoke from the exhaust and the distinctive aroma of 2T bikes. A 2T engine produces 1 power stroke for every crankshaft revolution, while a 4T needs 2. This means that for the same displacement, a 2T can be much more powerful, or for the same power, it's significantly lighter and more compact. This is gold in motocross, where every pound counts. Mechanical simplicity. No valves, camshafts, rockers, or valve springs mean a simpler engine to manufacture, cheaper to repair, historically, and easier to tune. Quick throttle response. The frequency of combustions and the absence of complex valvetrain components translate into a very direct and sharp response to the throttle, ideal for quick accelerations and jumps in off-road riding. Less engine braking. Having fewer cycles and compression in each revolution, the 2T engine generates less engine braking when you cut the throttle, which can be an advantage in certain racing situations. But all of this has its disadvantages. The burning of lubricating oil and the inherent, quote, leakage of fresh mixture through the exhaust during scavenging result in higher emissions of unburnt hydrocarbons, carbon monoxide, and particulates. This is what has led to strict Euro regulations that have reduced their presence in modern street bikes. Two-strokes motorcycle have a lower fuel efficiency. Due to the loss of some unburnt fresh mixture through the exhaust, 2T engines are generally less fuel efficient than equivalent 4T engines. They need to mix oil with fuel, or to have a separate oil injection system that still burns it, implies a constant expense on oil, the characteristic smoke, and the need to ensure the correct mixture. Although they are very powerful, 2T engines often have a narrower, quote, power band, or an optimal RPM range where they deliver most of their force. This requires the rider to keep the engine in that range to get maximum performance, which can be more demanding to ride. The legacy and future of 2T in motorcycles. During decades, 2T motorcycles were the kings of motocross and road racing. Iconic models from brands like Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, and Suzuki dominated the tracks. However, increasingly strict emissions regulations have forced the industry to seek alternatives. Nevertheless, the 2T engine has not died in motorcycling. Thanks to innovations like direct fuel injection, TPI, transfer port injection, and KTM Husqvarna, fuel can now be injected directly into the transfer ports or the combustion chamber at the precise moment. This eliminates the loss of fresh fuel through the exhaust, which drastically reduces emissions and significantly improves fuel efficiency, allowing these bikes to comply with more modern regulations. This advancement has revitalized the 2T off-road segment, offering cleaner, more efficient, and easier-to-use models while maintaining the lightness and power that characterize them. Today, the 2T engine remains a popular choice in the off-road world and in some racing categories due to its lightness, simplicity, and the pure adrenaline of its power delivery. For many enthusiasts, the sound, smell, and feel of a 2T bike are irreplaceable, a legacy of engineering that continues to evolve and roar on the tracks and trails. If you liked the video, please subscribe and give me a like. Thank you very much for watching the video. Let's keep the love for motorcycles alive. Goodbye.